Hi, welcome back to this episode, Leading London, powered by Vorboss in central London. And I got my second guest, and it is the wonderful Sarah Skelton, who is on the board of Apprentify, but also the founder and managing director of, Flourish.
Flourish.
Welcome to the Leadership Enigma. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Adam.
What do you think? How's this all feel?
It's very professional. Very
Thanks to
professional.
Vorboss, right?
Great setup from Vorboss. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really keen to talk to you about so many things. And we're really under the banner of Leading London. But you've got a bit of a story to tell, I think, haven't you? In relation to how you've come to the place that you're at now.
Yeah.
So let's take you back to kind of university days.
Yeah.
Take me from there.
So I studied drama
Yep.
and English
did you?
at uni.
Cool.
Minored in English, I might add. So mainly drama.
Right.
And I had no idea what I wanted to do. In fact, I think my first applications were to things like John Lewis and MS to get on the M&S to get on the graduate scheme.
They had great schemes, didn't
and
they?
they rejected me. So
okay.
Obviously the drama degree wasn't what they were looking for.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you can think back to we had this thing called Prospects Directory that used to come round. And it had all these job adverts in for grads. And I saw this one saying something like career in flogging. And it was to do with sales. And I thought, I'm quite and I thought I'm quite good at sales because I worked in a clothes shop during uni.
Yeah.
And I was always the top performer, despite only working weekends. Anyway, long story short, I applied to this recruitment firm that were looking for graduates to place. And they sort of said, would you fancy working for us? And I thought, it seemed like a good bunch. This was my process of making a decision. Seemed like a good bunch. Yes. And that was the start. That was literally how I decided. And I then stayed there for 23 years.
Well, that's an accolade in itself, isn't it? 23 years.
Yeah, quite abnormal.
Why did you stay for so long?
I think, firstly, loyalty is in the family because my parents both worked respectively for their different businesses for 50 and 55 years.
Wow. Now, is there a generational thing going on here?
Yeah, I think there is. I definitely think there is because I think now the generations, and I think maybe they're right, actually, they look at it and go, if I'm not happy, I'm going to move. Whereas
without hesitation.
Without hesitation. Whereas I think I was brought up that you get a job and you make that job work for you.
Yes.
Now, fortunately, the job was brilliant. I loved it. I loved being in sales.
What was brilliant about it?
The culture.
Tell me more.
I had never been in an environment where it was so social. There were so many people like me. It was fun. I mean, it was, let's remember, early 2000s. So it was a little bit different to what it is now. But there was a lot of banter. It was highly competitive,
right?
And you could earn quite a lot of money. And that feeling of being early 20s, out earning what perhaps my parents had spent 20, 30 years to build, felt like a bit unusual, that meritocratic environment that sales gives you. Yeah.
Did you find that strange? Because, sometimes we look back at our parents' work, really hard, and times were different. And then you move into an environment where, as you say, there's a meritocratic element to it, and you can do really well really quickly.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself comparing and contrasting with your parents, or?
Yeah, massively. Almost that imposter syndrome that we talk about today.
Well, I wanted to talk about that. So I'm not sure that ever goes. So when we talk about imposter syndrome, there's always that human element, isn't there, of can I do what I'm doing? And I'm going to come on to what you're doing now. Tell me a little bit more about how imposter syndrome might have showed up for you.
I think at the beginning, I just thought, I'm just a regular kid. I grew up in the north of England. Nothing bad, but nothing extraordinary has happened.
Where was home?
Lincoln.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
very
a nice
flat,
part of the world.
very quiet.
It is very flat, isn't it?
And so then I moved, and my first job was up in Wilmslow in Cheshire, which is quite flash.
Right.
So I was suddenly exposed to nice cars and fancy houses and. You just
footballers.
Footballers, yeah. David Beckham did drink in the local, actually. That is probably a day for another podcast. But yeah, it was just quite extraordinary. And I think the better I did, I sort of almost didn't know why I was doing as well as I was doing. But I had a work ethic that I thank my parents for. And I think that, as we know in sales, just propelled me. And then from there, I went up into management and was sales director probably by sort of age 26.
Still young.
Yeah, it feels very young now, 20 years ago.
When you talk about the work ethic, how would you describe your work ethic?
My work ethic, relentless.
Tell me more about that.
I am programmed to I have to do well at whatever I put my mind to.
Where's that coming from?
It's a really hard one because if you ask me traditionally where those traits would come from, I go, you've probably played sport.
Yeah.
No, I was crap at sport, never played sport. Maybe you had siblings. Nope, only child.
Oh, are you?
There's almost nothing that I can pinpoint, but I just know.
Is this coming from mum and dad? Is it?
Maybe. I mean, they've always been grafters. Mum, in fact, my mum worked, I tell everybody this, for 42 years straight without a day off sick.
Wow.
So
that's quite an inspiration, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think because she was a female in that generation and working full time while she had me,
yes,
that made me think that, well, that's what you do. It wasn't questioned.
And now you're a mum yourself.
I am. My daughter's 12.
Do you find that do you see traits of your mum in yourself now as you are balancing both?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really hard as a working parent, really hard.
Yeah.
And actually the shift I made last year to found Flourish came not coincidentally because my daughter started secondary school.
Okay.
And I felt like that was the time that I could then give myself fully to a new project.
Okay.
As opposed to the 10 years previous, I'd been quite fortunate to work part-time and
to be relentless,
but part-time relentless.
So let's talk about what you're doing at the moment. You're on the board of Apprentify, which is 200, and I think you told me 280 strong.
Yeah.
And now you founded Flourish,
yeah,
which is part of the group.
Absolutely.
And there's 12, 14 of you now working
14.
at an amazing address, which we won't reveal on the podcast, but an amazing,
I nearly did.
but an amazing address.
Yeah.
What do you put that down to? Because that's a heck of an achievement. You're on the board of a group of 280 people, and now you're leading a new entity within it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I think, firstly, it's quite a nice full story moment in that the CEO of Apprentify Group was the man that gave me my first job when I left university.
Yes.
So I had worked for him previously, and he'd seen what I was like and how I'd applied myself.
Right.
Not to get morbid, but then my mum died very suddenly and unexpectedly at the start of last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so this long period of being high performing, but in a comfort zone, suddenly made me think, like, bugger it, like, this is the time. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Because the worst has just happened.
Yeah.
So I had this opportunity to rejoin Jonathan and get my first board role and set up a new business in a market that I think is crying out still for early career talent.
Yes.
It was a no-brainer. But it probably took my mum dying, sounds awful, to give me that final, come on, you should do it.
Now, I know what it's like to lose a parent, and it can be a real seminal moment, can't it, for reflection. And I think we already spoke earlier, and we know we've only met, but there's probably elements of your mum in you.
100%.
And you can see and feel that coming out, which is maybe, I don't know, we've only just met. It kind of powers you.
Yeah.
You talked about this relentless element. So thanks to mum.
Yes,
for,
absolutely.
For
and my
that,
daughter's
right?
got it as well.
Well,
I
then,
can see it.
Isn't that a wonderful legacy?
Yeah.
So here you are now in the new role, being on a board.
Yeah.
And now a founder and an MD.
Yeah.
And really trying to lead in. Let's be honest, the world has gone slightly mad.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to do that?
I mean, every day is new.
Yeah.
Every day is a challenge. Sometimes it is a bit like, one day it feels very grand, like you've just said there, I'm a founder, I'm an MD, but actually I'm in the trenches.
And a board member.
And a board member, yeah. But actually, a lot of the time, I'm in the trenches with the team. Like, we're a new business.
Okay.
So I think the best way to lead is to get in the thick of it. And so...
Sleeves rolled up.
More often than not, literally, I am in the office, on the phone with them. Like, I've just left them today. They're all like making outbound calls and prospecting.
Did you tell them what you're about to do?
Yeah, they know what I'm up to, yeah.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what
do they think?
They're like, yay, because I keep putting myself out there doing like podcasts and live radio and stuff that I haven't previously done. So they think that's quite cool.
Why did you want to do this?
Because I think Vorboss is a great business and I wanted to
Shout
support them.
Shout out to Vorboss,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Because I think it's about taking yourself out of your comfort zone. You only learn if you put yourself in situations you don't normally do. And hopefully maybe my story inspires somebody.
Yeah.
And that's good, right?
I want to talk about multi-generational leadership as a big consideration for all businesses now. I think we're about to have 5 generations in a workplace for the first time ever. So you focus on first and second job area.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Gen Z.
Yeah.
Z.
Yeah.
Did I just say Gen Z?
You did, but that's okay.
Is that all right?
You can say that. I'm not offended.
I'm just correcting myself. Gen Z.
School leavers, grads, it doesn't really matter to us.
How come focusing on that kind of demographic? How did that come about?
Well, firstly, that's the background that I've predominantly been in. So it's the area that I know best.
So focusing on what you know.
Absolutely.
All right.
But I think most businesses struggle to hire great sales talent. And actually, I think the skill is trainable, but you can't train the attitude, the will. So
the relentlessness.
The relentlessness, the work ethic, the passion. So in my view, and thankfully a few others agree with me, if you can find individuals that have all of that potential and they just need training, you can hone their skills and develop them. And that's why I think helping that generation get a foot on the ladder is the best way.
So what would be your advice to businesses and leaders who are trying to communicate with Gen Z and get the best out of Gen Z when we're not Gen Z?
Yeah.
What have you learned from that?
So I think firstly, it is that recognition that they are not going to be fishing in the same places that we are.
Okay.
So, advertising jobs in traditional forms, that's not going to work. They're on TikTok looking for advice and looking for jobs.
Right.
They're also, as we talked about, happy to move if they're not happy.
Yeah.
So what's going to make them happy? We can't assume that something that worked 10, 15, 20 years ago is going to work today.
Right.
Obviously, I'd say come to Flourish. I can give even more advice.
It's a good shout out and absolutely right.
There. But I think we have to put ourselves in their shoes.
Okay.
And figure out how to create a safe environment that's going to inspire them and help, because they will be loyal, but only if they're given the tools and the opportunity and the support. They've got no hesitation to leave if they don't have those things in place.
Now, we talked about that, and we saw that, didn't we? A lot of people quitting during the pandemic because they just didn't like what they were experiencing.
Yeah.
And is there a difference? You talked about your parents who have been in the same job for 40, 50 years, which is incredible. And the older generation, I think that was more common.
Yeah.
But now there's a desire to shift and move and experience lots of different things. Whereas I think in our parents' time, it was maybe they would have done one or two things. Now, this population would love to do 10 or 12 things.
Yeah.
So is that just the norm? Is that just a shift?
I think they're getting tarnished with that, because they're happy to make the move. But I think for the businesses...
Strength of character to do it.
Absolutely. But
and opportunity.
And I think as well, if you think social media plays a lot into this, if we went back to our time when we started out, you couldn't see what other people are up to, living seemingly perfect lives in amazing jobs.
How true it is.
Because it's posted.
The jury's out,
my
right?
LinkedIn, it's there every day. But you couldn't see that. So there's that temptation. But actually, I've seen great loyalty in people, even those that are in that Gen Z pool, if they're looked after in the right way.
Okay.
And that's where I think you've got to really think and reflect on your leadership to get them to stay. But also, not that it's a bad thing if they do eventually go. Like, it's annoying if they
might come back.
The boomerangs.
Yep.
I love the boomerangs. But isn't it great if you invest time and you get 3 years from somebody and then they go on to a better opportunity? I go, that's brilliant. I've helped them get there.
Correct.
That's great for them.
So it says on your LinkedIn you're hiring at the moment.
Absolutely.
So how do you, look, you're a mum of a 12-year-old. How do you feel about your team of 12, 13, 14 that's growing? So when you're hiring and you're building the team, how do you feel as the founder and the MD towards that group?
I feel like a maternal responsibility.
Okay.
I think my leadership has totally evolved from the moment I became a parent.
Right.
And I look at people, and I read, and I can't for the life of me think what book it was, but I was reading a book recently that was talking about a CEO that felt the same, which is I look at them not as like a head count or a number, but they're somebody's kids. That's how I view every employee. They are somebody's child.
Yes.
So how can I give them the best possible I think about my daughter going into the workplace and how I'd want her to be treated.
Right.
And that is how I look at the team that I have.
So I was in Johannesburg last week, and I was doing a keynote, and I said something, and I'll tell you what I said.
Yeah.
I said, the reason that I'm so passionate to do this and talk about leadership and talk to as many leaders as possible is I think this is really personal, because the advice I got from my mentor was, he said this, when I got my first leader role within law, he said, remember, the children of the people that you lead will know your name.
Yeah.
In what context?
Oh my God, yeah.
It's up to you.
Yes.
And that really resonates with me, but I think that's going to resonate with you too,
wow,
right?
that's such a, that's amazing.
So the people that you lead, their kids know your name.
Yeah.
And talk about you at the breakfast, lunch, or the dinner table,
Yeah.
potentially. I think that makes it deeply personal as a leader, which is why it's so important to have this conversation about the human behind the doing and the achieving. Because if you are relentless, you're always going to achieve.
Yeah.
But who is Sarah?
Yeah.
And what's driving you?
Yeah, I mean, now the driver, the why, is my daughter, probably.
Okay.
Because I want to set up something that I want as, it would be lying if I didn't say I want Flourish to be the biggest, the best, the most prominent name. But I want it because I want the individuals we're placing to go on to literally flourish and have great careers.
Right.
But I want my daughter to look at me as a female leading a business and going, I can do that. should I want. I actually don't think she wants
So
to
you're
go
a role
into
model?
sales. Yeah, I want to be a role model.
Well, you are a role
I
model.
am a role model, yeah.
But whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
as a board member and as an MD, you are a role
Yeah.
model. So there are people probably within Apprentify who look at you and think, that's who I want to be. And you don't even know their name, but they see you.
Yeah.
And they hear you.
You're right.
So that's why there's another... Well, I'll talk about kind of the definition of leadership.
And that's quite an important thing that I think you have to wear as a leader. Like,
there's a weight
it's
to it.
important, isn't it?
Yeah. It's hugely important.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. With everything that you've experienced and you're going to go on to experience, what's the best piece of leadership advice that you've given or received that's front of mind for you?
So it sounds really obvious, but I think don't go into leadership if you don't love people. I think there's this grandeur, people think that the natural progression is I'm going to go up into management and then leadership.
Yeah.
But if you don't love people,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
I agree.
Stay the hell away. And I think the other thing is to also think about, as I said, those people as humans,
Yes.
as people that have families, and you put them first. And I think you, as a leader, it's important that you're authentic, you're honest, you do what you say you're going to do and follow up. Those are the sort of things that when I perhaps didn't always have good leadership, frustrated me. And so that's what I try and make sure I always do.
I always say as a parent, that old adage, do as I say, not as I do, never worked for us as a parent, so it doesn't work for us as leaders. I've got another question, actually, because as a board member and an MD, what's the kind of the biggest challenge on your mind right now?
The biggest challenge, I'll answer it in two parts. The biggest challenge is time, I think, at the moment, for me as an individual. Really struggling with the balance of being a new board member, trying to run a business, be a salesperson, coach, and all of that.
And be a mum.
Yeah. And then the thing that's on my mind is not a negative, is AI, right? Who isn't thinking about that? Are we implementing it enough? Not enough. How do we use it better? It's reassuring people that think they're going to lose their jobs because of it. It's staying current. There's probably something on my agenda.
I always say to people, it's unlikely that AI will take your job, but it is likely that someone who's able to really leverage AI will take your job.
Yeah.
And that's perhaps the real challenge. Sarah, it's been amazing to chat to you. Have you enjoyed this?
Yeah, that was so quick.
I
felt like surely.
Which means you're having fun. Thank you so
Thank you very much
for being part and parcel of this really special episode, powered by Vorboss, leading London. You've been a superstar.
Thank you, Adam.
All right.
That really was quick, but we're good. Yeah?
We are.